Have you ever struggled to forgive someone who hurt you deeply? Maybe it was a betrayal, a harsh word, or a wound that still hasn't healed. Forgiveness can feel impossible. But today, let's look at what Jesus teaches us about forgiveness and why it has the power to completely transform our lives. In Matthew chapter 18, Peter asks Jesus a very honest question. Lord, how many times shall I forgive my brother who sins against me? Up to 7 times? Peter probably thought he was being generous. But Jesus answered, I tell you, not 7 times, but 77 times. In other words, forgiveness is not about counting. It's about living with a heart that is always ready to forgive. Why would Jesus ask this of us? Because he knows something we often forget. Unforgiveness doesn't just hurt others. It traps us. It keeps us tied to pain, anger, and bitterness. But forgiveness sets us free. Jesus didn't just teach forgiveness. He lived it. While hanging on the cross, after being beaten, mocked, and crucified, Jesus said, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. Think about that moment. In his greatest suffering, Jesus chose mercy, not revenge, not anger, mercy. This is the heart of Christ. Forgiveness is not pretending that the pain didn't happen. It's not saying what they did was okay. Forgiveness means choosing to release the person into God's hands and refusing to let bitterness control your heart. In the Lord's Prayer, Jesus teaches us to say, Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. This is powerful. We are asking God to forgive us in the same way that we forgive others. That means forgiveness is not optional in the Christian life. It is essential. But let's be honest, forgiving isn't easy. Sometimes the wounds are deep. Sometimes a person never apologized. Sometimes the memory still hurts. So how do we forgive? First, we bring our pain to God. You don't have to hide your feelings. Tell him everything, the anger, the hurt, the confusion. God can handle your honesty. Second, we make a decision. Forgiveness is not just a feeling. It is a choice. You may not feel ready, but you can still choose to forgive. Third, we ask for grace. On our own, we cannot fully forgive. But with God's grace, healing begins. Jesus tells a parable about a servant who was forgiven a huge debt by his master, but then refused to forgive a small debt owed to him. When the master heard about it, he was angry. The message is clear. We have been forgiven so much by God. How can we refuse to forgive others? Every sin, every mistake, every failure, we bring it to God, and he offers mercy again and again. When we truly understand how much we have been forgiven, our hearts begin to soften toward others. Forgiveness doesn't mean the relationship will always go back to the way it was. Sometimes boundaries are necessary, but even then, forgiveness allows you to move forward without carrying the weight of resentment. And here's something beautiful. Every time you forgive, you become more like Christ. You reflect his love, his mercy, his compassion. Colossians 3 verse 13 says, Bear with each other and forgive one another. Forgive as the Lord forgave you. This is a calling of every believer. So today, ask yourself, is there someone I need to forgive? Maybe it's someone from your past. Maybe it's someone close to you. Or maybe it's even yourself. Yes, sometimes the hardest person to forgive is ourselves. But remember this, God's mercy is greater than your past. His love is bigger than your mistakes. When you accept His forgiveness, you can begin to extend that same grace to others. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is strength. It is choosing peace over pride, healing over hatred, freedom over bondage. So today, take that step. Whisper a simple prayer. Lord, help me forgive. And trust that He will give you the grace to do what feels impossible. Because with God, nothing is impossible. And in forgiveness, we find true freedom. Amen.